Lascian Corla, first of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to speak directly to parents and families of children with special educational needs. And I want to say to parents that while I could not possibly understand all of the day-to-day pressures that they are facing, I am on their side, and this government is committed to ensuring that every child with special education needs has access to an education. One child who does not have a place is one child too many, and I fundamentally believe that our most vulnerable children in society must be prioritised. As a government, we fully recognise the importance of an all-inclusive and all-embracing education system, and never is it more important than in the case of children with special educational needs. It is their right under the Constitution, and nobody in this chamber would disagree with that. My number one priority, therefore, is to increase the amount of special school and special class places until every single child in this country has a place, and I will not stop until this is achieved. I've made it clear that I believe every single school should provide special education provision, and that is where we need to get to as a society. I know that we are not there yet, and that this is the reality facing some families in this country at the moment, but that is where we must get to, and I believe that we will get there. We have to get there because there is no other option. We've made significant progress over the last number of years in increasing the amount of special class places and special school places, as well as increasing our special education teachers and SNAs to record levels, and that cannot be forgotten. This year, the government will spend in excess of €2 billion, or over 25% of the Department of Education budget, on providing additional teaching and care supports for children with special educational needs. This represents an increase of over 60% in total expenditure since 2011. But where does that money go? Well, firstly, it goes into increasing the number of SETs and SNAs. And in relation to them, I want to generally thank them for all their amazing work that they've done throughout the school year in teaching and caring for children with additional needs. Some see the disabilities, but special education teachers see the possibilities. In 2011, the number of special education teachers in mainstream school system was 10,575, and we now have 14,385, which is an increase of 48%. And I'd like to very much acknowledge the important and significant role of an SNA and the individual SNAs in supporting some of the country's most vulnerable children. The work and the commitment that they give ensures that our children with SEN can attend school and participate in school life to the fullest possible extent. Provision has been made for 19,169 SNAs by the end of 2022, which will represent an increase of 81% since 2011, and there will be 1,165 extra SNAs allocated this year. Schools have maintained their SNA allocation since 2019, and an average of 1,000 additional SNAs per annum has been allocated to schools since that time in 2020 and again in 2021. And I think we've made significant inroads for SNAs over the past few years, which has been a key priority of mine. We've had a comprehensive review of the SNA scheme, and in this regard the NCSE recommended that a new national training programme at level 5 of the National Qualification Framework will be developed for existing SNAs who do not have the requisite level of training, and for new SNAs on appointment. This is a major educational initiative which will enhance the knowledge, the skills and the expertise of SNAs, who are crucial to the inclusion of students with additional care needs in the education system. And I ensured that the programme will be fully funded by the Department and delivered at no cost to the SNA. I am also aware of Force's campaign to have the minimum essential qualification for SNAs reviewed, and the Department has committed and communicated to Force that it is open to reviewing the position, and I fully support this. So where else does the budget go? It also goes into increasing special classes, and these classes, as I mentioned, are vital in supporting the development and potential of children with SEN. In 2011, we had just 548 special classes in mainstream schools, and from this September, we will have 2,463 special classes in mainstream schools across the country. That is an increase of 450% in 11 years. Special classes to support children with significant special education needs are smaller than the mainstream and have a pupil-teacher ratio as low as 6:1, and have SNAs assigned to look after the pupil care needs. Overall, there are almost 12,700 pupils enrolled in special classes in mainstream primary and post-primary schools, representing approximately 1% of the overall pupil population. Budget 2022 provided for the creation of 287 additional special classes for the 2022-23 school year. And these additional classes were to provide over 1,700 new places for September. So far, we have exceeded our projection so that 1,800 additional places in 350 new special classes will become available in 2022. And the Department will continue to engage with the NCSC, school patrons and school authorities over the summer months to increase capacity where needed. The budget also goes, of course, into supporting special schools, and this is one of my favourite and most rewarding parts of this job, is being able to visit special schools across the country. It's really amazing to see the work that is going on in these schools, and I recently visited St Martin's Special School in Waterford, which truly is an example of how far we have come. They are also an example of what can be achieved. They have music programmes, food preparation and nutrition classes with an adjoining garden where children grow their own vegetables and herbs, and there's also a woodwork and craft studio. And these are all practical skills that children are learning from a young age to use into further education and beyond. They are life skills that are vitally important in order to be able to achieve their full potential. And this is the type of model that I want to see every child have access to in the future, and that is what I'm working towards. Special schools also, as we know, have lower class sizes and will also have SNAs assigned. They cater for particular categories of disability, and there are now 129 special schools providing specialist education for approximately 8,000 pupils annually, with over 1,400 teachers, and that represents approximately 0.8% of the total pupil population. Budget 2022 also provided for an additional 23 teaching posts and 46 SNA posts in special schools, which will create an additional 140 class places. 2 new special schools opened last year. A further 2, one in Cork and one in Dublin, are scheduled to open this year. And these are the first new special schools to be developed in this country over a decade. As I've highlighted, the special education budget of €2 billion is being spent on the front line to increase these key resources which are supporting special education provision. And I know I spent the first part of my speech outlining the increase in numbers and statistics. But I know for many parents out there listening today that numbers and statistics don't mean anything to you if your child doesn't currently have an appropriate school place. And I want to tell you that I am committed to doing anything that I can to try and ensure that your child has access to the support that they need. And over the last 11 years, Fine Gael has prioritised investing in children with SEN. We believe in supporting all children, especially children with special education needs, to achieve their full potential. And I believe that this commitment was clear when the Taoiseach appointed me as the first ever Minister for Special Education and Inclusion. And I'd like to take this opportunity to outline what I have done and what I'm going to do further to increase special education provision. So firstly, I secured an agreement with the Department which ensures that all new school buildings will have compulsory special class provision moving forward. And this is an important step along the way to eventually ensure that every school will provide special education provision. I've said that this is my #1 goal, and I truly believe it's the only way forward. I've introduced a number of new strategic initiatives, particularly in the last 2 years, to deliver the scale and the quantity of special education provision that is required for our children and young people. This future-proofing will include the incorporation of at least 4 special classes in all new 1,000 student post-primary schools and other large-scale projects, and pro rata for medium to smaller schools. At primary level, accommodation for 2 special classes is provided for 8 to 16 mainstream class schools and for 4 special classes at larger schools. And despite what the opposition are claiming, there is forward planning and work underway on enhancing special class and special school provision across the country. I've also introduced a new forecasting model. A geographic information management system is being utilised to support a strategic and coordinated approach to planning and the delivery of SEN provision, and that is essential in allowing us to prepare for the future. Also, in March of this year, I announced for the very first time that special education provision would open with a fee charging patron, the Spiritans. And this is something that many people said would never happen, but I expect also to expand on this precedent going forward. I've appointed as well a new CEO of the National Council for Special Education, who I believe will make the necessary changes in order to reform the organisation. There are legacy issues there that need to be addressed. I'm well aware of that, and I will put in place the necessary resources which are required in order to achieve this. Another key priority of mine as Minister is to use whatever legislative tools I can in order to provide more places for children as quickly as possible. And I've already, as you know, initiated the Section 37A process, and we are currently examining how we can streamline that process and if emergency legislation will help us do that. I'm also looking at commencing the Section 67 of the Education Act. This provides a power to the NCSE to designate a school place for an individual child in a special class or a special school. This is something that I believe that we can do. And although we have many challenges ahead, the National Council for Special Education has informed me that, save for Dublin, they are confident that there will be enough special class and special school provision to satisfy demand across the entire country. And more broadly, the Department continues to work closely with the NCSE and relevant stakeholders in the school system in relation to the overall special education placement requirements. This is particularly in the case of the Dublin area to ensure a supply of placements coming on stream to meet emerging demand. And there is ongoing work to provide additional special classes and special school places for the next year, so the remaining gaps in provision from the current 99% to the full 100% is achieved as quickly as possible. I recently announced, as I said, that it will be initiating the Section 37A process to compel schools to increase places for children with special education needs. And as I said on Tuesday, I felt like I was left with no other option but to take substantive action, and I believe that it is a necessary step to try and ensure that every child gets the supports that they need and access to school placements. All parties would clearly prefer to see schools actually volunteer to provide more places rather than places being secured on the back of an order or a direction from the Minister. Schools have been working with us, though, and the NCSE to open new classes, and we will open at least 315 additional classes this year, and I am grateful to all concerned for their ongoing work in this regard. But where schools don't volunteer to provide more places, I will absolutely compel them to do so. And I said that on Tuesday evening, and I will say it over and over again. I fundamentally believe that all schools should have to provide places for children with SEN. And it's not good enough to say we don't cater for children with additional needs. I cannot accept that, and I won't accept that. The second stage of the Section 37A process is now complete in relation to and the NCSE will now provide a detailed report on the matter to me, and will consult with school patrons, national parent bodies, school management bodies and the teacher unions, which is requested under the process. And I've insisted that this be done as quickly as possible, and I expect that it will be. And I believe, as I said as well, that that process itself needs to be streamlined and shortened, because there are too many stages in it, and I've made that clear that it needs reform. The other legislative option that I've mentioned is the Section 67 of the Education Act, and this provides a power to the NCSE to designate a school place for an individual child in a special class or special school. And the Department has recently engaged with both the NCSE and TUSLA in relation to commencing this provision, and these discussions are continuing as a matter of priority. I believe we need to have a common sense approach to this issue. For me, it makes complete sense to commence that section, as it is the NCSE who know about the students who need special school and special class places the most. They've also already worked with the schools directly to open these places, so let them fill them. And furthermore, we are separately considering whether there is a need to introduce new emergency legislation to assist in securing additional special education needs provision. And the Department, as I mentioned on Tuesday, recently met the Office of the Attorney-General to discuss this matter. And this work will consider whether new legislation would assist in expediting the Section 37A process. So the Department is working really closely, as am I, with stakeholders, including parents and advocacy groups. As you know, we have a consultative special education forum to ensure that children with SEN can access education placements appropriate to the needs. And I'm very aware that listening to the voices of parents and those representing children with disabilities it is essential to ensure that what we deliver actually meets the needs of those children. In special education, sometimes there's too much emphasis placed on the deficit and not enough on the strength, and we have to harness that strength and determination to work intensively on the issues facing us in relation to school placement, so that we can find a way forward with the best interests of the children at heart. I know, as I said on Tuesday as well, it is a very emotive topic for thousands of families across the country, and I realise that every case of a child with SEN is different, and I have met with many parents recently, and I want to let them know that we are listening to them. I want to assure every single parent that I am fully and unequivocally committed to ensuring that each child with a special education need has an appropriate school place. It is their constitutional right after all, and I will not stop until this is achieved. Come on, good.